video.
Yeah, sure.
Please stay with us. We'll be back. Dr. Swamy, we have two giants. We have India and we have China bordering on each other. I know you've written 4 books about China. What is the future of relations between India and China?
Well, it's a bit hard to predict, but first, if you go back in history, we have had 2,000 years at least of relations, and only I think 3 years we were really tense. All the time there were peaceful exchanges. They accepted Buddhism from us, and we are family-wise, culture-wise quite similar. So there's no historical background like in the case of France and Germany or England and France and so on. There's no history of war between the two countries. The essential problem is that we are sitting at the underbelly of China, namely Tibet. And they have another problem on the other side, that is Taiwan. So if the Indians and the United States, if India and the United States get together, this will make China very nervous. That's one aspect which we have to overcome. That is to assure China that we will not, in the event of their problems with the United States over Taiwan, we won't tickle them on their belly. This is, I don't know how we can create that kind of trust. China on its side has been patronizing Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan's nuclear program is entirely due to the assistance from China and North Korea, and otherwise Pakistan would never have been able to do it. Besides, of course, the usual robbery and theft which was done in Europe by Pakistani scientists. So the promotion of Pakistan by China is also an irritant that we have. But most of all, China's economic success is on thin ice. That is, their entire success is based on the fact that they're able to export such a large amount to the West. Those exports are not Chinese made. They are maybe written made in China, but they are semi-processed products. 2/3 of it are semi-processed products from East Asia, which go to China for cheaper labor and get
so assembled in China
and assembled, little value added, and then sent out. So tomorrow, if East Asia were to say India is a better place, then that traffic would go via India. Previously, it was going directly, but because labor costs have risen in East Asia, they've started going through China.
When you say East Asia, you're talking about
Japan, Taiwan, Korea, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong.
This is something we don't often hear about. You're an economist. You have that perspective.
It's in one of my books, the most recent book.
So
if that gets diverted, China will collapse, because China has a surplus only on its European and American account.
Yes.
Its account on East Asia, its account of indigenously produced Chinese goods is all negative.
Yeah.
And therefore, India represents a potential threat to undermining China. And especially because the Western countries have tremendous influence in these East Asian countries. If India and the United States got together, maybe the East Asians might feel Indian democracy, property rights, and the patents and the intellectual property rights all more favorable. If India improves its infrastructure, this trade would definitely get diverted via India.
Can we expect a continuing rapprochement with Pakistan?
Well, if there is a Pakistan.
Why do you say if there is? That's interesting.
Well, see, the Pakistan failed to develop an identity except in terms of anti-Indian terms. What is Pakistan identity? Even today,
language?
No. There are different languages. There are Sindhi and Pashtuni and Baluchi and they, many of them didn't want to be part of Pakistan. For instance, Baluchistan never wanted to be part of Pakistan. They were forced to be. And India and Pakistan, there was an equation, and suddenly the world has forgotten that equation and started equating India with China. And India has made this tremendous progress in IT. And it has democracy. I mean, the one thing that Pakistanis, when they speak to me, say they admire about India is that despite all, you have democracy.
World's largest democracy.
And we have been functioning as the world's largest democracy. And they admire that, they grudge it, but it's there. And it's having an impact in Pakistan. And I don't think Pakistan society is designed institutionally for a democracy.
Well, what do you think the next 100 years holds for India? What will it look like in 100 years, or 20 years for that matter?
I can draw on the 7-part series of the Time magazine, which says that both India and China were developed countries 200 years ago, and they just resumed their position. I think India, China, United States will be the triangle which will decide the future of the world in the coming years. India has already overtaken Japan in its GDP measured by purchasing power parity. China is number 2, and I'm sure that we will overtake China too, because China has a financial system problem which they haven't been able to correct and cannot correct because of political reasons. And so I think these 3 countries will be the dominant countries of the 21st century.
So will India manage to maintain its Hindu identity with all this?
Yes, of course, because the Hindu identity is getting deeper, because the philosophical aspects which are now being propagated is not support the caste system, support the bondage of women. None of that. This now the idiom is totally modern. You go to any preaching in India, in any part where there are 100,000 people sitting to hear, it is basically how you can overcome the problems of life, and people across all castes sit together. There's no scheduled caste have to sit in one corner and the Brahmins have to sit in another corner.
On that wonderful note, Dr. Swamy, I'd like to say thank you very much. A most fascinating interview. Thank you.